Hi, everyone. How are you? Apparently, I'm live. So, I want to talk to you today about a new childbirth tip or trend for 2024, 25. Boop. But the reality is, as I'll say in each of these live chats, is that childbirth has gone on forever. It will go on forever. So, even though it's going to be 2025, it doesn't matter. So, what's this thing about breathing and birth? Some of you may have heard about it, some of you have given birth, and all of us who have given birth knows one thing. We all breathe. We breathe in and we breathe out. And we do in life. In fact, men breathe as well. We all blink, we all cough, and we can all tighten up our rectum. However, childbirth is really, really unique. If you've given birth, you understand that your breathing can change a lot. But we don't really understand how it changes, why it changes, and is there a good way to breathe? And so we need to talk about it. When I first gave birth in 1970 in the US, millions of us for a generation from the late 50s to the middle 70s went to Lamaze classes. Lamaze and Bradley classes in the US both had breathing methods or breathing techniques. Lamaze was in and out the mouth. Bradley was in the nose and out the mouth. So there we were, which was right. What did we discover? And what did the hundreds of fathers and mothers and I that developed the birthing better skills discovered? And what we discovered was neither of those methods or techniques were adjustable, adaptable, or sustainable. And so we had to think about, how do we fill in the gaps? And are we filling in the gaps in a way that can be understood by anybody? And that was important because we know a global truth. 100% of pregnant women are going to give birth one way or another. It's just what we do. We do it. We have to do the activity. But for most of us, birth happens to us. We don't feel in control. And we don't feel in control because something happened between when I gave birth in 1970 and when I gave birth last in 1982. And that is the skills-based concept that was alive in the United States from the late 50s to the mid 70s was replaced by the present choice-based concept, build a birth plan. But what happened was that skills were basically dismissed. Now, why is that? It has to do sort of with the politics of birth, which is kind of crazy, isn't it? Because 100% of pregnant women are going to give birth, and the memory of your birth lasts a lifetime. So everybody wants to have a good birth. We want to be alive after it. We want our baby to be alive after it. And we want to recover from it. We want our baby to recover from it. And we want to move into parenting feeling confident about ourselves. So let me just talk a little bit about what happened when I gave birth in the 1970s. How did the skills-based trend of that time happen? There had been zero, not a zilch, childbirth skills globally since humans started. Birth just happened to us because the first childbirth concept is very simple. You never know what your birth's going to be like. And that's been followed by, therefore, there's nothing really you can do to prepare for it. And that's still true today because the privileged women who can choose and make a birth plan, because 99% of women around the world don't have choices around it. But those of us who do have choices around where we birth or who's with us or what we want or we don't want, all of us pretty much say the same thing after the birth. There's nothing like I imagined. So if you can't plan it, we still do it. We have to do it. It's an activity. And every human activity is best done with skills. So Lamaze and Bradley in Grantley Dick Reed in New Zealand, where I lived, they came up with skills-based methods. And Lamaze was taught in probably every hospital in the United States in the 50s to the mid-70s, and Bradley more in people's homes. And our husbands were coming into birth coaches because we didn't want to be left alone anymore. We'd been left alone forever. Right? We didn't want to be left alone. We wanted somebody who would help us. And so during that period of the 50s to the mid 70s, our husbands or others learned either Lamaze or Bradley skills, and they helped us as best as they could. But in the late 1970s, what happened was the natural birth movement went global, and women, low-risk women who had chosen Lamaze or Bradley, not enough of them had achieved the stated goals, which was a natural birth, pain-free labor without medical care. And so the natural birth movement then said, skills are not essential. Cows and cats aren't taught to birth. Women don't need to be taught to birth. We instinctively know how to do it. Fathers were removed from the role of being a birth coach because women should be left alone again to discover birth for themselves. And information became the childbirth classes rather than skills. We lacked choices from the 50s to the 70s. When choices became available, we lacked skills. And what Birthing Better Families and I were saying when we started to develop the skills in the early 70s and into the 80s and 90s was that it was great to have more adaptable, adjustable, and sustainable skills. And when we had choices, we needed to have skills and choices because our birth rarely unfolds the way we want it to. Most choices don't unfold the way we'd like to, some do, but we still have to do the activity of birthing our baby. So we're back to the fact that we breathe in and we breathe out. And what Birthing Better Families wanted was a more adaptable, adjustable, and sustainable ways to breathe. So how did we do that? Well, we understood that Lamaze was in and out the mouth, and that was unsustainable. You cannot for hours and hours. You get hyperventilated, you end up breathing into a brown paper bag, and you get dizzy and nauseous. So that doesn't work well. Bradley sounded good in the nose and out the mouth, and it was practiced as blowing or slack jaw. But in reality, what men could hear and what we could do was to do this or do this. That was in the nose and out the mouth. And the guys were going, she's breathing in her nose and out her mouth. And the women were going, why isn't he helping me? So we had to go back and understand that humans actually have 4 variations of how we breathe. We have a variation of in the nose and out the nose. We have a variation of in and out the mouth. And we have a variation of in the nose and out the mouth, like Bradley, or in the mouth and out the nose. So then we went back and we played around with these as to what do we actually do as humans? So if you breathe in and out your nose, how does that vary? How can you vary that? When do you use that? And what we discovered is by and large, most people breathe in and out the nose unless your nose is blocked, you have a cold, or other things. So in and out the nose had some variation or they didn't have a lot. But when we looked at in the nose and out the mouth, we could blow, we could sigh, we could be running, climbing up the stairs, sex, we could be moaning, we could be screaming, and athletic events. That had a lot of variations. But which of those variations indicated that we were coping and managing well? And what we discovered was the blowing or the slack jaw. And this was good because our husband or other could hear if we changed from which was fine, to which was really not fine. And then they could model the good breathing and we would follow them. And why would we follow them? Because no one wants to feel out of control when we give birth. So in the nose and out the mouth occurs if we jump into ice cold water or if we're scared. We don't use that very much. Sometimes you hear it in birth if somebody does something to a woman and she gets startled. And when do we breathe in and out our mouth? Well, if our nose is stuffed or athletic events, we do. But once again, we cannot do that sustainably for any length of time. We get lightheaded and nauseous. So in the nose and out the nose, and in the nose and out the mouth, are the 2 of the 4 variations that humans use to breathe and use best when we're giving birth, whether we labor or we have a non-laboring cesarean, because we're still doing the activity and we still have to breathe, and we're breathing in and out. So we can have skills to make our breathing effective. And why is that important? Because when birth happens to us, we're still left with the birth memories. And when we cope and manage well, we're left with different birth memories. We prefer being left with good birth stories to tell people. Things like, I hated every single second. It was terribly painful, but I really used my breathing well. And my partner really helped me keep using my breathing well. That's a different story than saying I screamed my way through the birth, or I felt so disconnected as I had a cesarean. We don't want to be disconnected. All of us are skilled adults, and we get into pregnancy, and pregnancy is like a black hole for both of us. And then we get spit out after the birth and expected to just feel confident and work together and feel comfortable. And what Birthing Better Families understood very early on is that when we use skills, then we birth better and we felt more confident and competent after the birth. And that was very good. So let's sort of reiterate this. We often breathe in and out our nose during birth. Many women do that for the whole time. And it can vary from just simply to, but many of us then shift to in the nose and out the mouth. And if it gets really intense, then it starts to go like this. Oh. And that's where our birth coach, our husband, or other can help us by modeling the breath. Sadly, when we moved from the skills-based approach to childbirth to the choice-based approach in the 1980s, skills were totally dismissed and fathers were removed as being birth coaches, and doulas came in and filled their place. It's great if you have a doula, but all of you learn skills so you can help each other. When families work together during the birth of their baby, they feel really good after the birth. They birth better and they feel really empowered after the birth. And they explain it that way. Often women will say, I hated every single second. It was really challenging. I didn't like what they did to me, but I really used my breathing, and my partner or other really helped me stay in control. And that's the birth story you tell, rather than saying, I just felt out of control the whole time. So breathing is really essential. How do you practice it? It's very simple. You breathe in and your nose and out your nose. You breathe in your nose and out your mouth, and you vary it. And you imagine in your mind doing something that feels okay, and doing something that doesn't feel okay. And practice with your partner. They see and hear you. So if you're breathing like this, they see and hear you. And when you change to, they see and hear you. And they can step right in and model, and you'll follow them, because no woman wants to feel out of control as birth is unfolding. It's as simple as that. So what we want you to do is to spread the word that everybody should self-learn skills when they're pregnant and use their skills to work through the activity of birthing their baby, no matter how their birth unfolds, no matter their beliefs, no matter who is present, no matter the circumstances, no matter the choices, lack of choices, change of choices, or what happens to around you. You are left with the birth memories. And you create those birth memories by either not having skills or having skills and working through the activity of birthing your baby. Giving birth is a one-off. It's infrequent. It's life transforming, and the memory of it lasts a lifetime. So we need to start to grow a self-learning skilled birthing population, whether you have choices or not. And most women around the world lack choices anyway. So we need you to say that to your friends, to your relatives, in your classes, online. Let's grow a self-learning skilled birthing population that we can easily couple with choices if we're privileged to have them, or the change of our choices if that happens, or the lack of choices. It doesn't matter. When we're skilled, we work through the activity of birthing our baby. And we need to bring fathers or others back as birth coaches. It doesn't matter you're going to replace doulas. They're welcome to be there, but all of you should be skilled together so you can at least go to the toilet and change roles. So what did you learn today? The best of the 4 variations for breathing and birth is either in the nose and out the nose or in the nose and out the mouth. And that those things can vary. And they can vary moment to moment. But if you're breathing in your mouth and out your nose or in and out your mouth, it is not sustainable. And the people who are with you can see that. And if they have skills and they see you and hear that you're stressed in your breathing, they can bring you back to a good breathing pattern by modeling the breathing, and you will work with them because nobody wants to feel out of control. That's not a good memory to create. And you feel more confident, competent, and capable by working through your baby's birth journey together or on your own if you're a solo mom. There's a link to our shopping cart. We have 20 courses. We have Pregnancy Academy courses for skills to develop from conception through the 5 phases of pregnancy. And fathers develop most of those skills. And we have courses that are for first-time moms and dads, or breech birth, or a VBAC, or a hospital birth, or home birth. And those are modules from the complete course, which are the original skills that hundreds of fathers and mothers and I developed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The skills are extensive because everybody's got lots and lots and lots of, this happened, what could I have done? Or what if this happens? Or could I have? So we don't just have breathing skills. We have got lots of skills. They're not hard to learn because we're all human, right? They're quite easy to learn. And you don't have to practice them all the time. Once you get that in the nose and out the nose and in the nose and out the mouth, and the variations are what you should use to cope and manage during birth, whether it's on the way to the hospital to have a cesarean, or whether you're laboring, or whether you labor and have an unplanned surgical birth, doesn't matter. It's an activity. And when we do that activity, feeling that we cope, we manage, we work through, we deal with, we handle, we stay on top of and feel in control, then we come out of the birth into parenting feeling competent, confident about ourselves, and particularly with our partner. So fathers or others should birth coach with us and learn skills with us. So tune in next week. I'm going to try to do these at the same time each week. And just remember, breathe. I'll see you later.